Halloween wasn't always about candy and costumes. It has roots in ancient rituals that few know about. Over 2,000 years ago, Celtic tribes in what is now Ireland and the United Kingdom celebrated a festival called Samhain. As each year's harvest season ended, they believed that on this night, the boundaries between the living and the spirit world blurred. Fires were lit, and offerings were made to protect their homes from wandering spirits and appease otherworldly forces. This date also marked the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a time often associated with death. The Celts believed that on the night of Samhain, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became blurred. It was a time when spirits could easily cross over, and the Celts took precautions to appease them. The Celts celebrated Samhain with bonfires, feasts, and rituals. They wore costumes often made of animal skins to ward off evil spirits. They also made offerings of food and drink to the spirits to ensure a good harvest in the coming year. Samhain was a time of both celebration and fear for the ancient Celts. It was a time to honor the dead, appease the spirits, and welcome the coming of winter. Samhain, pronounced Samhain, was the most important of the 4 seasonal festivals celebrated by the ancient Celts. It marked the end of the harvest season, a time when crops had been gathered and animals brought in from the pastures. It was a time to give thanks for the bounty of the earth and to prepare for the lean months ahead. However, Samhain was not just a harvest festival. The Celts believed that on this night, the veil between the worlds of the living and the dead thinned, allowing spirits to pass through. This belief stemmed from their view of time, which was not linear, but cyclical. The Celts saw the year as divided into 2 halves, the light half, representing life, and the dark half, representing death. Samhain marked the transition from the light half to the dark half, a time when the boundary between the living and the dead was at its most vulnerable. To appease the spirits and ensure a safe passage into the dark half of the year, the Celts performed various rituals. They built huge bonfires, believing that the flames would ward off evil spirits and attract good ones. They also made offerings of food and drink to the spirits, hoping to appease them and ensure a good harvest in the coming year. With the spread of Christianity across Europe, these ancient traditions were adapted and eventually transformed into All Hallows' Eve, the night before All Saints' Day. This process was particularly evident in the case of Samhain. Instead of trying to abolish the ancient festival, the Church attempted to Christianize it. In the 7th century AD, Pope Boniface IV designated November 1st as All Saints' Day, a day to honor all Christian saints known and unknown. This day was also known as All Hallows' Day, hallow being an Old English word for saint. The evening before All Hallows' Day, October 31st, became known as All Hallows' Eve, which eventually evolved into Halloween. Yet the spirit of Samhain lingered, blending pagan and Christian customs to honor both the dead and the supernatural. Many of the old traditions associated with Samhain, such as bonfires, costumes, and the belief in spirits, continued to be practiced alongside the new Christian rituals. The association between Halloween and the dead was further strengthened in the 10th century when the Catholic Church declared November 2nd as All Souls' Day, a day to commemorate the dead. This day was often celebrated with prayers, visits to cemeteries, and the ringing of church bells. Section 4. Halloween crosses the Atlantic from Old World to New World. Halloween was largely ignored by the early American colonists, many of whom were Protestants who rejected the Catholic holidays of All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. It wasn't until the 19th century, when waves of European immigrants, especially the Irish, arrived in America, that Halloween truly found its way across the Atlantic. They brought their age-old customs with them, including the carving of turnips into lanterns, the playing of pranks, and the telling of ghost stories. Sharing tales of the otherworldly and transforming American communities along the way, these traditions began to take root in their new homeland. Section 5. The shaping of an American tradition, trick-or-treating, costumes, and community. By the late 19th century, Halloween was becoming increasingly popular in America, particularly among children and young people. It was during this time that many of the Halloween traditions we know and love today began to take shape. Trick-or-treating, a central part of modern Halloween celebrations, has its roots in ancient Celtic and medieval European traditions. In some medieval practices, poor people would go door to door on All Hallows' Eve, receiving food in exchange for prayers for the dead. This practice, known as souling, is believed to be a precursor to trick-or-treating. Costumes also became a popular part of Halloween celebrations in America. Initially, costumes were often homemade and reflected a mix of spooky and humorous themes. Over time, Halloween evolved from a spiritual observance into a secular celebration. In neighborhoods across the United States, the night became one of community, play, and mystery. Traditions like trick-or-treating, haunted houses, and pumpkin carving took root, blending the old with a fresh, uniquely American style of celebration. Each year, as the lights dim and pumpkins glow, Halloween remains a night when the past and present meet on American soil. Today, Halloween stands as a powerful cultural phenomenon woven into the fabric of American identity. It's a night where tradition, superstition, and fun collide, a reminder of both ancient fears and modern festivities. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden history behind Halloween, don't forget to subscribe. Join us on a journey through America's past and be part of keeping these stories alive.